All right. So it is Good Friday, Passover, and Ramadan, which must be why it feels like we're living through biblical times. Welcome to MOMocrats MOMochat, special holiday edition of MOMocrats MOMochat. What that means is that I am not going to do any post production work on it, no music, nothing. I got to get
Oh,
it
good.
online and go back to cooking for my Seder. Um, I'm here with Karoli and Aliza Worthington, both of crooksandliars.com. And happy holiday, you guys.
Yeah,
Happy
happy
holidays.
Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Passover, happy Easter, whatever it is you celebrate this weekend. Happy, happy. Be with
Yes,
family, be happy.
yes,
So
because there is just a lot of misery out there.
there is. There is a lot of and a lot of joy. But like for me, this is the first Easter in probably 30 years that I've spent with my mom. So
Oh,
it's gonna be a good one.
that's
Yeah.
nice.
Nice.
Yeah. So that makes me happy. But yeah, the news is bleak, you guys.
Yeah,
It's very bleak.
it just
So
seems to get worse and worse. So, I mean, we are helping Ukraine. We are
yes.
sending them billions of dollars worth of weaponry, and
Mhm.
Putin is, behaving just like a little Trump. He's having tantrums, but the problem is he's got nuclear arms, and he is making credible threats that are help
Exactly.
of Ukraine, which we have to help Ukraine because we do.
We have to. That's
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Um, you
He's
know,
got nuclear arms and nobody able to stop him from using it.
Well, so
Whereas,
I mean, just to oh, go.
yeah, I
Sorry.
mean, Trump didn't have, Trump at least had some sort of guardrails. There were people who had,
which if he gets reelected, he won't
well,
have. There
I
will
mean,
be
I'm
Yeah.
just,
no
but
guardrails
way back when he was
at the beginning.
a whole 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, we convinced Ukraine to give up their nuclear weapons.
Yes.
So we have an obligation now to
Yes,
make
we
sure
do.
that they are
Protect
not
them.
nuked.
Yeah.
And I had a big discussion today with somebody on Twitter about the fact that they're like, we need to be strong and mighty and just do the no-fly zone and come in there. And I'm like, only if you want to start a world nuclear war, you guys. I mean, seriously, stop being John Wayne on
Yeah.
this. And I said straight out, there's got to be more creative ways.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainians seem to have some, like for example, blowing up Russian's flagship battleship
Yeah.
yesterday.
With weapons they
So
developed themselves. Those
right, they
weapons
weren't
weren't
our weapons.
they weren't ours.
Right.
They
Honestly, that gave me great joy yesterday. I will. I mean, I'm not like jumping and leaping up and down about dead Russians. I think those
no.
sailors are probably the doomed sailors are humans too, and they're just following orders. But seeing that ship sink, it was something good.
Poetic justice after the beginning of the war when they were attacking the island there.
Snake
Right.
Island.
Yes.
Yeah. It was the same ship.
It was the
Same.
same ship that attacked that
Yeah.
threatened Snake Island.
That said, Russia, go fuck yourself.
And
Sorry, not safe for.
Ukraine, and now Ukraine just did
Yeah.
it.
Just
I mean, Aaron Sorkin, you should forgive me, could not have written a better script
right.
for,
He
you
couldn't.
know,
I,
if you had made that up, if I had written a script and submitted it to Hollywood, they would say, "Nah, that's
it's
too
too
neat.
perfect.
It's too perfect. No one will buy that."
Yeah.
So,
And
I mean,
yet
that's
here
how
we
delicious
are.
it
But
was. Yeah,
it is escalating. We know we don't even know the full extent of the war crimes that the Russians have committed.
yeah.
No, we
Got
don't.
And that's why I'm always, while I'm never, glad to hear of, not to channel Mark Twain, but I'm never, wishing for the death or glad to hear of the death of people, but Um, I know that a lot of those soldiers, especially the youngest ones, are, the Russian soldiers, 19-year-old kids who were lied to about what they were on their way to do to begin with at the
Mhm.
beginning.
Yeah.
But I also know a lot of Russian soldiers are guilty of unbelievable brutality and gleefully carrying out pretty horrendous war crimes uh, in the name of you know of their country and dominating innocent civilian Ukrainian citizens, kids, babies, and it's
Well,
I gotta view those people as I don't I can't give those people a pass. I can't say they were just
Yeah.
following orders. I can't you
well,
know
they haven't been trained not to commit war crimes. You
no,
know,
they're encouraged. This is what
they take
Putin
great
wants.
restraint in wartime not to get carried away.
Yeah,
And I mean, we all remember My Lai
Right.
and atrocities that we committed in
yeah.
Iraq.
Oh, not it's not that we're not.
No, it's a matter of training. It's a
Yeah.
matter of what the top brass is allowing and what they are setting
Right.
standards they set. And the Russians, the brutality kind of goes back centuries in the
Hmm.
way the Russian military operates.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so now they've got a general known as the Butcher of Baghdad
Mm.
Ugh.
in
No, is he the butcher of Baghdad? I thought he was the one that they sent into Syria.
Butcher of Syria. Butcher of Baghdad
Yeah.
is somebody else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the butcher.
This
Yeah,
is
right.
Syria.
Different war.
Yeah,
There's always a butcher. There is always
right.
a butcher,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a credible threat. CISA, the Internet Security Agency here in
Hmm.
the
Oh
United
yes.
States, issued a warning saying that there
Hmm.
is a credible threat that Russia is going to go after our energy grid, and that they can, and other vital infrastructure online.
Yep. And that should worry us all because
That
the
should,
the part where they can is the part
yeah,
that should worry us.
yes,
Yeah. So it's bad. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it's and Putin seems to be willing to. There's nothing he won't do. I mean, it doesn't seem that yesterday we saw threats, credible threats, that he was going to drop a nuclear bomb on Kiev.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
Whew.
he has a deadline of May 9th because there's like a big parade celebrating
That's right.
Russia's
Russian Victory Day.
yes, and so
Hmm.
his whole plan was to have this all wrapped up and done and to celebrate it, on May 9th. And
I
so
was
he's
unaware
got
of that
nothing to
deadline.
celebrate.
Yeah, that's a thing. So yes, he has an internal deadline.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then over
Arbitrarily imposed.
here,
Yeah.
it's almost fun to watch the Republicans tie themselves in knots as they condemn the war crimes while not condemning Vladimir Putin.
Or
Right.
Trump.
Because Trump still worships Putin,
Yeah.
and they all enthrall to Trump.
Yeah. They need Trump.
They,
Love Trump.
Ugh. I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's just every time I hear the name Trump, I don't know what to say anymore because it's like how much evidence do you need of this guy, what he is, who he is, and who he believes, what he believes or doesn't believe, right? In order to say enough is enough already.
well, it would help if we could shut down the right wing propaganda.
It would.
But we can't because of the First Amendment, which it's a conundrum.
Yeah.
I support the First Amendment,
Somebody said that the interpretation of the First Amendment right now is, I tweeted this earlier, I retweeted, that the interpretation of the First Amendment right now is just a train wreck. I mean, basically, that it's worth looking at it and saying, is this really a realistic interpretation?
Yeah.
Is this something that we should actually accept? Everything else is being thrown out the window right now, right? Why not take a look at free speech and see if there's a way to, because honestly, like what Fox News and One American News Network and Newsmax and all those are doing is anti-American. It isn't, and I go back, if you go back to earlier times, you'll see that the Hearst newspapers were the Fox News of their day.
Yes.
Right. It's I never really understood why so many people didn't care when Patty Hearst got kidnapped. Until I started reading about Hearst newspapers and realized that, that they had so much impact on their time. So this isn't new. Fox News isn't new. None of this is new, but the scale upon which they're doing this is new.
There was more competition.
Yeah.
It was more diffuse.
Yeah.
The Hearst papers weren't the only paper in town. And back then, there were restrictions on what a company could own as far as TV stations.
Right.
No company could own more than 7 TV stations.
Right. That's no longer the case.
That's no longer the case.
Right.
And nothing like the internet existed, which is something that can be available to some, people, whereas, 20, even, as little as 20 years ago, people weren't able to have news infused 24/7, really, the way, or,
the way now, which isn't healthy.
Yeah, the way
Right.
entertainment and news can be infused now. And it's really a metastasis the way, the way information is spread now. And it didn't used to be that way. When when we look at the way First Amendment rights have been interpreted in the past, they weren't, being held against this, they weren't being viewed through the lens we're looking at now.
Right.
Yeah.
And the damage that it can do now.
Elon Musk thinks that his free
another Karoli and I both went, oh.
I know.
Another one whose name just makes my stomach clench up.
Yeah, I love Teslas, but I won't buy. I think we said this last week. I won't buy one as long as he has any stake in that company. And I on Twitter right now, I pay them their $3 a month so that I can edit my tweets. I don't always catch everything but so I can edit my tweets before I send them.
You can do that?
Yeah, if you pay $3 a month, you can edit your tweets before you send them out. You get like a minute to change anything that's wrong with it and fix it before it gets sent out. And so there's some other benefits too. It's worth the $3 a month, right? Yeah. So, but if he takes over Twitter, that ends. Money. Yeah, then we look for another place to go, and Facebook's not it. I know you've defended Facebook, but I'm 9 days away from losing my 15-year-old Facebook account for something I didn't do.
Yeah, right? That's terrible.
So, and there's nobody that I can contact. There's no person that I can contact and say
the what's the word? The setup.
The lack of customer service.
the customer, the way the company came about or the way it's run.
Yeah. I know you haven't.
Do everything via algorithm.
Yeah.
There,
well, not only that, you just can't automate everything. Sometimes you need eyes on something.
Human, and that's it. That's all Mark Zuckerberg is. He's not a human being. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, and that's the way he runs Facebook.
Yeah. So if I need human intervention, good luck with that. Unless I'm a right winger named Ben Shapiro, then it's different. And by the way, right now we're being targeted by wingers. Just so you know, Crooks and Liars is being targeted by wingers, and so they're pulling down posts on Facebook that are perfectly okay. They're calling them spam. Our traffic has literally dropped in half.
Yeah.
Since all of this, but the targeting this week has been ridiculous. It's just crazy. Yeah. This week we had a post from Jimmy Kimmel that they took down, said it was spam.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah. And all kinds, I mean, just, and there's nobody you can contact. And the thing is, they keep saying, you violated community standards. You could have your page taken down, blah, blah, blah. We're not promoting your page. And it's to the point now where we're going to have to get lawyers involved and make something of this, because they're actually literally killing our business without even giving us a chance to appeal it,
Yeah.
And even when we do appeal it and they agree with our appeal, they leave us dinged on Facebook. The
They
ding
don't
stays. It
restore our
doesn't go
status.
away.
Yeah.
Days.
Huh?
That's awful.
So the thing is, everybody, I can hear the people, the clamoring out there, people saying, well, just ditch Facebook. Screw that, because that's what
Not
they
that
basically
easy.
did. That's what they basically did with, MySpace, right? Everybody moved from MySpace to Twitter or to Facebook.
Facebook.
The thing is, it's a little bit harder because, and they knew this because, first of all, there's no other place that drives eyeballs like Facebook does.
Right.
They know that. I mean, they're
Buddy is.
right.
When they killed my
At least once a day. And like in my case, sure, I could delete my Facebook account. Here's the problem with that. All the posts that I put in my high school reunion group of the obituaries for people that are gone, that was my job, was to find the obituaries and post them in there and then write little memorials for them.
Mhm.
All that's now gone. I can't get it back. They can't get it back. Right? I mean, if they don't restore my account, that's the kind of stuff that I don't want to lose. It's not, who cares about the politics? I just want the
Yeah.
personal stuff,
Yeah.
So anyway, I know that's sort of a diversion, but I just wanted to say out
Yes
there, if
and
you're
no. I
watching,
mean, this is,
well, our
you gotta
voices are being squelched.
that free speech rules
Yeah.
weren't taking into account when when lawsuits were setting precedents and things like that. This was not the lens they were looking through.
Well, and the other part of that, and I want to say this very clearly, is I had that account for 15 years with 0 violations.
Right.
Yeah.
No violations, not even one. Right?
Right.
I was a good community member and a contributing one. And so that should have been taken into account. Instead, goodbye. That basically this, one strike and you're out. If you're me, not necessarily true if you're Ben Shapiro.
Right.
So I'm angry about it. I am. I'm not gonna lie.
You should be.
Yeah. So anyway, there's that. We should probably move on before I just start ranting
Well,
ridiculously.
now I'm feeling like I really want to download all my Facebook.
Yeah, well, I'm going to write a post about basically advising everybody, download your data because you just don't know, right?
Yeah.
You think you're good and then until you're not.
Yep.
And in my case, just so you know, I got an email, looked like it came from Facebook. It was a fish. There was no way to see that it was a fish on my phone. I even ran it by techies and said, tell me how I was going to know that this was a fish.
Yep.
And there was no way. And Facebook sends emails all the time. This is not new. They do send emails. So I clicked the link and it was a fish and it posted child porn to my account.
Oh my
Child
God.
abuse. Yeah. So obviously, I mean, my son saw it right away. I said, post that I've been hacked. I reported the hack. I sent them all the information.
Yeah.
And, 9 days now and I'm gone. So.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, should we talk about something like that we could rant about Republicans, like maybe Greg Abbott's stunt this week? 2 stunts, actually.
Which
He's got
one?
2.
Yeah, I mean, he's
I was
got
going
a
to say, it's
couple.
not just one. Everybody's talking about the one where he got migrants on a bus and sent them to Washington, D.C.
Yeah, but there's the other one.
The other one that's way worse is
The
that
other ones, I mean, they're both bad. I don't want to he kidnapped migrants. That's fucking shitty.
Right, that's bad. But they actually, the ones that he sent up there actually said they wanted to go.
Yeah,
That's how he's getting around this.
They got a free ride to a state, to an area that's closer to the places where their families were.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they got meals, and he actually did these migrants a service. And, nobody's really doing a lot of reporting on that. But I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of fun when I read that article that
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
migrants just very happy to be on that bus.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
On
But
the other hand, what he's doing at the border should make all of us crazy, because what he's basically doing is causing food shortages and inflation, more
yes,
inflation. And then he's going to try to blame it on Democrats, even though it's
yes,
him
that's what
that's
they
doing it.
do. This is now part of the playbook
Yep.
to
Right.
to take what is already a problem, turn it into a crisis,
Yep.
and then say it's the Democrats' fault because they're in the White House.
Right.
Right.
Or they're in control of Congress.
Right.
So in
Yep.
this case, what
Yeah.
he did is he is ordered that state agents should search every single truck that crosses the border. So traffic is backed up, for miles. And they're
Yep.
taking their sweet time about searching every truck. It's not like they're looking and glowing. It's, the whole point being that the food will be rotting basically at the border that
Right.
would normally come across. And
Right.
so the price of food's going to go up, and we're going to have food shortages. And this is just the reality of today's Republican Party.
Right.
Yep.
Uh, you know,
Because
it's
as
disgusting.
as they said at the beginning of the year, inflation is very good for them.
Yes, that too.
Yep.
It's which just is so disgusting.
It is
Can
disgusting.
I'm trying to imagine it the other way. I'm trying to imagine that there's somebody in office that's not a Democrat,
Oh,
and inflation is going up, and I can't see
we would
Democrats sitting
never get
back and
away
going,
with that.
inflation is good for us. I mean, did you remember
We
anybody
would never
saying
get
the
away with that.
pandemic is good for us? Isn't it great that that we're locked down and we can't do anything, I mean,
And
that
people
is just
are dying.
right.
You know?
I mean, we didn't say that because we would never say that. And these assholes stand there and go, oh, the American people are suffering. That's too bad. Let's do it some more. They're
Unbelievable.
Now the
fucking
part
sadists.
that is crazy making is that so many people will vote for them.
Well, all I have to say is, and we just better know that if you are a MOMocrats person, watcher, or you listen to this, we're going to say this every single freaking time we have a chance. We have to outvote them. We have to do what we did in 2020. We have to
It's the
show up.
only way.
It's the only way. I mean,
It's the
and
only
they'll
way.
whine and they'll scream about voter fraud and all the rest of it. And it does not matter. We have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got people who are casual voters, we've got people who are young people and don't see the big picture, and they're angry that they are not, they expect to change right away. And they don't
So,
look at the constrictions on the
Okay.
administration to get things done.
Well, this is what we need to do with these young people. And this may or may not be fair because my son was a captive audience, but I did ask his permission, and he was ill with a stomach flu that I gave him. Loving mother, I can never say I didn't give him anything. I was recovered. And he was staying up in his room because we had my parents were, a long story anyway, we're up there. He wants distraction from his nausea, right? So I'm like, what do you want to talk about? He's very, he keeps up with politics and stuff. And he started with the why can't Joe Biden eliminate student debt? And I said,
that's a big
well,
one.
it's not that simple. He's 18, by the way, just for context, senior in high school. And I explained a little bit, and Congress has to write a bill. Biden has said he will sign it. Certain things Biden can do and has done, extended payment deadlines, blah, blah, blah. And he's, has a tendency toward the negative, sounded very discouraged still. And I said, we have to keep the House. We have to keep the Senate. This is, the continuation of the democracy depends on it. He said, well, how are we going to do that? And then I think that was when he said, if Biden can't even do student debt. And thus began the conversation. And I said, would you like me to read to you all the things that Congress and Biden have done? And he said, okay. And I started, took out my phone. There is a great Twitter account called What 46 Has Done.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him this, they have a pinned thread.
Right.
And it's what 46, the number 46 has done.
Mm-hmm. You know
and
what?
The name of the account
it's
is
worth going through that list.
I read it to him. I said, and every fifth one I would stop. I said, do you want to hear more? And he would say, yes. I said, these are things he did with Congress. I said, not just Biden. This is, 1.9. And here it is. This is the first of, this is a mega thread. $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan. He worked with Congress to get this done. So when you get on the phone with somebody, you're talking to somebody who's disaffected or discouraged, these things happen. $1,400 stimulus checks for adults, children, and adult dependents. And he goes, yeah, one time. I was like, are you going to sneeze at $1,400 when you can't make your rent that month? 1 year child tax, and I continued. 350 for billion for state and local aid. I just went through it. I kept going. I got to the environment. His ears really perked up. I got to, I talked about student loan stuff. This is maybe, I don't know how many tweets long. And it's just for the first year. It easily goes into the 30s or 40s.
We should do a whole show just on that.
It is unbelievable. So when you make your phone calls, when you write your postcards, when you talk to a young person who's and these things, and still, and then talk the judiciary, the amazing changes, even people like Elie Mystal, who's real negative on Biden, and he's really negative on Merrick Garland. And he, but he will come out, and he has said on a number of occasions how transformative Joe Biden has been for the entire judiciary branch, barring the Supreme Court, of course, because he hasn't, with the exception of Ketanji Brown Jackson, where he kept his promise of nominating an absolutely stellar Black woman.
Yes.
And got her through, shepherded her through. And, the nature of having civil rights lawyers, defense attorneys, human rights attorneys becoming judges is going to have a huge impact all the way down the line into the communities in terms of what kinds of sentences will be handed down, the way juries are going to be picked, the way trials are going to proceed. And this is going to have a huge impact on communities. These are the things Joe Biden and the Senate has done because we have the majority, but it's so goddamn razor thin and it's so at risk. This is the only way. 2022 is the only election that matters.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is how we pump people up.
I agree.
Those going away.
Although I would say you have to do it in a quicker way than that. You have to
you think?
I mean, you can't go through all those things. So the question that I ask when I hear
was sick and I had him at my disposal.
No, right. I know. When I hear the complaint about student debt, the first question I ask is, have you paid any student loans since Biden's been president?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is no. Then what are you worried about? Have you made any payments on your student loan since Biden was president? No. Then what are you worried about? Yeah. And then you follow that up with, if you want that to be permanent, if you want it to be gone, then we have to have a Congress, and we have to, well, first of all, we have to have a Senate that makes Joe Manchin irrelevant.
Yes.
And we have to have the House. We have to hold on to the House. And how does that happen? That happens when you vote. It happens when you just show up and cast the vote. Because if you think Republicans are going to do this for you, guess again. You know they're not going to do it. So, what is the harm in casting the vote, even if you are disgruntled? And honestly, I don't hear that many people go, well, I'm not going to vote because I'm pissed off about this. It's just not, I don't see where that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I guess my point is that we need to be having those conversations. And I think that's the point you were trying to make. It's not enough to just say vote. Have the conversation, but just make it a fast one. Make it they don't want us to lecture them, and we don't want to be, doing that either. At the same time, it's worth pointing out that a lot of this disgruntlement about student loans is coming from social media, right? Where there's like, well, why hasn't this been forgiven yet? Here's another way that it could happen.
It has been forgiven, but I mean,
it hasn't been, they haven't had to pay anything.
Yeah.
And in the end, what you would like to have happen is that we have a Senate that renders Joe Manchin irrelevant, and that we pass something that at least takes what they've paid and applies it to the principal and forgives all the interest.
That's what I said too.
Right? So that they're, and I would go further than that, to be honest with you, in a lot of these situations. But I'm saying at the very least, take the interest away. It just shocks me how many people have been paying on student loans for 20 years and have barely touched the principal.
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we talked about that too. And then we talked about medical debt. I said, if I had to choose, medical debt, getting healthy shouldn't make you lose your house. These are, these should be things that are no-brainers. Other countries have figured out how to do this.
Incidentally, the administration has made it so that the credit reporting companies no longer take medical debt into account when they're computing your credit score.
Oh, right. I forgot
the medical debt, but it is helping consumers. It is a step in the right direction.
Yes, it absolutely is. So, I mean, that's great. But and we need to talk about that too, because medical debt is a huge big deal to a lot of people. And one of the things that it's done to people is made it so they can't borrow money to buy a house, or they can't, any of that.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much wrong still with our healthcare system. I'm still navigating
things fixed if veer from Republican administration to Democratic, and the Democrats try to fix things, but then we're back to the Republicans who mess it up again.
And I think that's the message that we have to just say, is that if you want this to happen, it's not instantaneous. It's just what you said. It's not going to happen overnight, but things are happening, and it's worth pointing that out. You're not paying any student loans right now.
Yeah, and I think Obama was on a few years ago. I think it was Mark is it Mark Maron or Mark Macron podcast?
Mark Maron.
Mark Maron podcast.
Yeah.
Where he said, it's like, these changes are like changes, steering an ocean liner. The changes you make to a government, you change it, just even if you change the direction 1 degree or 2 degrees, you're making a big change in where that ocean liner is going to end up.
Yeah.
And you have to think long term like that. Like, an ocean liner is a big unwieldy thing. And
the United States is the Titanic.
Exactly. Well, I mean, hopefully not, but we'll see. Again, that's something that will, 2022 is the iceberg that we have to, we got to be careful.
Yeah, I agree. We do. I mean, it's not just we got to be careful. We've got to be vocal and loud and like yelling at people, stay away from that iceberg, don't go there. And everything. And honestly, also, I think we have to say that media has a vested interest in making it sound like Democrats are down. This was one of the things that Eric Boehlert was so great at pointing out.
Our friend.
Right.
Did you talk about this last week?
We did talk about this
I'm
last
sorry
week,
I missed it
and
last week. Yeah.
yeah, and this week it just like hit me like a ton of bricks, and I'd eagerly
Oh,
open
this
my
week.
Gmail looking for his press run, and it wasn't there, and it, oh, anyway,
What a loss.
media has a vested interest in making everything seem bleak for Democrats
Yeah.
Yeah.
and good for Republicans. And so they emphasize the things that are going to make Democrats look bad. And by the way, to some extent this also happens when it's the other way around, but not like it does when there's Democrats.
Same way.
And
Not the
I
same.
mean
Why do you
it's
think
just
that is? Why is it better business for Democrats to make Democrats look bad than Republicans? I don't
because media is owned by billionaires, and billionaires are typically Republican.
know, but I mean, why does it not why do the people at the top try to make it
Yeah.
seem that way? Why is it appealing to the masses? Why do they consume that? It wouldn't the people at the top would make money if the people at the bottom consumed more of the
Well,
other.
Because
And
I mean, go ahead.
like why so what I don't understand is why does it sell better for Democrats to be doing poorly
there is a
than it does for Republicans to be doing
there is
poorly?
a trope. There is
Because
a trope. There is the image of the bleeding heart liberal. You know, if you care about people, you're weak. And this is so ingrained in the American psyche that caring is weakness and
Well,
that putting people first is weakness. And so there is, it's like we were talking about that whole John Wayne attitude that sells in America. The cowboy, the loner, the self reliant, you know, whereas
right.
we talk about everybody being inclusive and getting along and you know trying to look at everybody's differences and elevating everybody. That's mushy, that's female.
I
uh,
would say that's definitely part of it, but I think we could do a whole episode on that question,
Mhm.
because the other piece of it, and this is very real, is that there is literally an addiction to fear
mm-hmm,
that is stoked and nurtured by Fox News and OAN and all the conservative online people and Newsmax. And the addiction to fear is actually physiological. And I mean, I've seen it in my own family. I've seen it where they literally react to that fear mongering
mm-hmm,
with by responding then to Republicans. So when you say Democrats are weak, or you say Democrats are child molesters, which is what they're doing to us right now, right? Or when you say these things, that tickles that place in their brain that they are used to having tickled. I mean, it's literally an addiction to the adrenaline that comes along with
right,
fear. And
right.
I mean, they've actually
There've been
tested
studies
people,
on the conservative mind
right?
and
But it's literally a form of brainwashing,
yeah,
is what it is.
yeah.
And if you haven't watched like The Brainwashing of My Dad, you
So
should.
good.
You can get it on Apple. You can get it on Apple for sure. Um, but I think just do a Google search, because I think she's got it on Vimeo or something.
Yeah,
Jen Senko made it. It's a great film.
it's very, very good. You know,
Yeah.
particularly, you know, on the converse, during the Trump
Hmm.
years, when our fear response was full
Right.
time, you
Yeah.
know, that was when MSNBC's ratings went up, all of the news networks' ratings,
Especially Rachel Maddow.
all
Yeah.
of the news networks' ratings went up because we were afraid too.
And we still are. I mean, let's face it. What we're saying basically is we're afraid if he's reelected again, that's the end of democracy. That's a pretty strong statement
Yeah,
You
to
would
make,
think.
right?
You
We
would
don't
think.
make it lightly, and we don't make it for the naked power grab like they do. I mean, they're lying about us in order to regain power,
Yeah, but then
right?
there's
And
states like but in Republican states, they're outlawing abortion, and like that's a pretty terrifying thing to happen for women in those states, and those women still are electing Republicans.
Well,
Yes.
those
And so
in those states are dominated by evangelicals who are telling women that they're going to go to hell if they have an abortion. I mean, I went on a rant last night against
Yeah,
evangelicals, and I'm a Christian. I
yeah,
mean, I just had enough of what they're, but that's why. And until there's a point where there can be some kind of, dialogue that doesn't involve, holy rollers and, snake oil handlers and everything, or snake handlers and everything else. I don't know how to reach that. I mean, these are the reddest of the red, the states that are
yeah,
doing this.
you can't argue with a religious fanatic or a cult member. And that's why you can't argue with the 30% of people that love Trump
Right.
because it's a cult.
But you do have to remember that it's 30%. His rallies aren't selling out. He's
No,
not getting
right.
full attendance. And the people that are following him like a traveling,
right. It's like the Grateful Dead. They're like deadheads going from
Even the
exactly.
ones, even the ones that are local, they're not the ones following him that attend these rallies. Half of them are filing out like after 10 minutes. They're like, we've heard this before.
Yeah.
There's reports of them leaving after.
I'm getting requests from the Trump campaign to reserve your name on Truth Social like every day now.
Mhm. Yeah. Mine go to spam, but yeah. So the thing is, I don't discount him. I mean, I want to. I want to say, I want to take all of these data points and say to myself, he's waning. He's
Yeah.
yesterday's news, and I can't do it. I just there's a part of me because of what happened in 2016, and because, by the way, I am concerned that they've set things up in a way so that they can cheat and literally steal elections after
Well,
screaming
that's
about us
what
stealing elections.
happening. Everything is projection. It was fun to see Mark Meadows taken off the voter rolls yesterday.
It was.
Um, it's a shame that he didn't go to jail like that poor woman in Texas
I know, right?
who didn't even know that she had bad advice and she wasn't trying to break the law. Mark
Did she
Meadows
even vote, or did she just register? I didn't even know if she even
No,
voted.
she didn't
But
vote.
given provisional ballot.
oh, okay. So she voted provisionally, and it could have been thrown out. Instead, they threw her in
Yes,
jail. Okay, yeah, that
yes,
sounds right.
yes.
Sigh. So
So
yeah,
how did Mark Meadows, why would registering as living in North Carolina, how would that have benefited him? Did he want to run for the Senate from North Carolina or something? Like, why was he
well,
even
he was in
claiming?
the House,
Yeah.
right? And he was originally in the House, and then
Oh,
he
okay.
was
Right.
uh, then he was chief of staff.
Right. But was he
And
like
so
mulling a
I don't
run
know
for
if he
this?
wanted to
I
run
think so,
again
yeah.
or
I think he wanted to keep his residency there.
yeah, I think that's true. If I had to guess, I
Where is
would
his
guess that it
residency?
had more to do with taxes
Hmm.
than it did voting.
I bet you're right.
So
Yeah.
where is his residence? Where does he live?
They had a
DC.
house. Yeah,
DC. Okay.
they had a house in North Carolina that got sold. And so
Right,
they
right. I know,
were
but
living in DC. And they
right,
did
that
Yeah.
was my question, was where their actual.
yeah.
Right. It might be Virginia, but I mean it's that area. And like I said, my guess is that the reason he kept an address in North Carolina and a voter registration had more to do with taxes than it did
Right.
voting.
Right.
So because a lot of people will use their voter registration to point to residency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but still, when they cry so loudly about people registering in more than one place
Hmm.
or, in homes that they don't actually live in. And then,
Hmm.
the only people that are getting caught actually committing voter fraud are these guys in the villages. And
Every accusation is a confession. Say it
Everyone.
over and over and over.
And the one
Every
that worries me the
accusation.
most is the one that they're leveling at us now, which is that we're child abusers.
Right.
Yeah. Child
Because
molesters.
why does that worry
Groomers.
me? Not because we are, but because I'm worried that they are, and they have
Well, there have been police
candidates who are running in states
Yeah.
credibly accused
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
We have
So
them already in the House of Representatives.
yeah,
Matt
so
Gaetz.
right. Another thing that's interesting is I don't know if you guys are following Iowa, but the Democrat there, Abby Finkenauer, that was
Yep.
running
What
as
happened with that?
so they got a court to throw out her primary application because she didn't have dates on 3 signatures in 3 counties or something.
Wow.
And the Supreme Court basically noted that the date requirement was passed after this election, not the current one. So the Iowa Supreme Court reinstated her. But
Oh,
I mean, this is the lengths to which they'll go. She had plenty of signatures. It wasn't that she didn't have enough signatures. She just didn't have them in these rural counties. She didn't have dates on some of them. I mean, they're just literally power hungry assholes.
yeah.
And I mean, Chuck Grassley is one who needs to go. Let's just face it. He should have
Yeah.
retired this year round, not run again.
He should have retired. And
Dianne
the only
Feinstein should have
vote,
retired.
the only vote I've ever cast that I regret was the last
Same.
one for Dianne Feinstein.
Yep. Yeah, we should
I,
have elected
I
Kevin De
still
Leon.
don't believe in term limits because I think it's crazy to
Right, I
turn
do too.
someone out of office just
I do
as they
too.
understand the ropes and know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But maybe when you get over the age of 80, you should have some kind of cognitive testing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we do have term limits. They're called elections.
Yes.
Right.
They're not, as opposed to judicial, lifetime appointments. Nothing we do have, nothing, apart from certain levels of judiciary are lifetime appointments.
Yeah, but
So, I mean, even some
I
judges are elected.
trusted Di-Fi to make a determination
Yeah.
whether she was capable of serving another 6 years. And maybe she thought she did. And seeing from how quickly my father deteriorated mentally, when that deterioration starts, it can go very quickly and you might not be aware of it. And, you know, I did not vote for Kevin De Leon. I didn't like her being primaried from the left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't either.
I didn't want to be ageist. And
Yeah.
I do regret that vote.
Don't
Yeah,
beat
I do
yourself
too.
up for it though, because those instincts aren't wrong and they don't come from nowhere. And those, it's you do what you can, and
Yeah.
so what happens should she retire now? How much is left in her term?
Well, she retired. Newsom could appoint somebody
Yeah.
for the rest of her term.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like a special election would happen.
Yeah, it's like Alex Padilla got
Right,
appointed
right.
to replace Kamala
Okay.
Harris. And we have to vote for him twice on this ballot because he's running both the special election and the primary.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah, and that's what that's important. We got to get the word about that out too, because
when
people
he's
are
on the ballot,
confused
it's
about
confusing.
why they should check him in both places.
Yeah.
It's because there's 2 elections at the same time.
Yes,
Right.
people really should learn about their own state's ballot coming up.
It's so weird that people don't. They
Yeah.
just don't.
People are busy.
And if you go back to school, ballots were simple in school when you voted for class president or whatever, right? There
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
Jane and
What's your name?
Johnny, and they
Yes,
were
no.
running,
Yeah.
and you check the name, and that's it, right? There's none of this complicated stuff, and honestly, Republicans complicated everything. So they did it on purpose. The recall ballot was like that too, because they knew if it's confusing, that they'd probably win the recall.
There's a better chance of winning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the
Yeah.
same with propositions. And, it's not easy. And it's not easy to know who's running for the judge or the prosecutors or, you know, there's no real clearinghouse, at least here in Los Angeles, where we
Right.
can see who all these people are. And that would
Mm-hmm.
be a great service. But of course, somebody would have to put money into that. It'd be nice if Elon Musk put money into something like that instead of deciding that he wants Twitter
Instead
all
of
to
a vanity project,
Right.
instead of penis rockets
Indeed.
and
See, guys, we've got about 10 minutes left.
Oh, I have to look at our list. What have we covered? Any of it?
Few of them. We've covered quite a few of them, but
Oh, we haven't talked about inflation
we have not talked about inflation
or
except
Jared or oh my goodness.
yeah, yeah. I joked about having like a spinning wheel, to choose a topic. I think we are actually going to have to build something like that because now we've got it on video. We can do that.
Oh,
So
I'm gonna have to see
you
what
can
I
do
can
like
get.
love it or leave it and have a rant wheel, you can where you spin the wheel and rant about whatever the topic is.
We may have
I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm writing that down too. Right under the brainwashing of my dad, I need to find a spinning
Yeah.
wheel.
there you go.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely stunning to learn that Jared got $2 billion for a hedge fund that he knows nothing about how to run, and that even the Saudis who are making the investment were saying, we don't trust him to handle this, but we're going to do it anyway because MBS is his best bud, you know.
2
You're not hearing
billion
about
with
that a
a
lot on Fox?
B. Billion.
2 billion for Jared, one
Billion with
billion
a
for
B.
Mnuchin, but Mnuchin at least knows something about finance. That was his profession.
Right.
I mean, that's bad enough that they walked out of here doing business for. I mean, did any member of the Trump administration not self deal?
No, they all did.
No, but Saki is unethical because she found herself a job for when she left.
Right.
Again,
After she announced a year ago she was going to be leaving.
Right. God
again,
forbid she should set herself
only
up with a job.
okay if you are a Republican.
Right.
It's part of that whole why do they do this with the Democrats thing.
Absolutely.
And it's part of I just want to scream at the news reports on inflation
Yeah.
where yesterday or a couple of days ago MSNBC did yet another report on inflation. They end the report by saying polls of voters say that they blame Biden. That's not how. You know why the voters blame Biden? Because you're not explaining to them that it's a global phenomenon, that Biden has very limited powers to do anything about it. It's complicated. Oh, and apparently inflation has started to go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't say that, I will.
If you remove the gas, which is up largely because of the changes in the pandemic and
Yeah.
what's happening in Ukraine, and
Mhm.
food prices, also because of supply chain issues and the war in Europe. You take
Right.
those two out, inflation was up 0.03% or 0.3%.
Yeah, it was something super low.
Half what it was last month if you take
Right.
those out.
Right.
But
So
people
all
aren't
the
going to take those
indicators.
out. All they care about is what's coming out of their wallet. Okay, so
Yes.
people don't understand that. They're not wonky. They're not going to be thinking.
No.
Except that
Normal people who vote want to know, they go to the grocery store, they see eggs are $4.50 instead of $2.50, and they know how much is coming out of their wallet. So that's what they care about.
And it we all care about that.
I understand that. But there, what this is part of why it is so egregious of news stations to not explain
Thank you.
who's responsible for it.
Mhm.
This is their responsibility to explain
They don't.
in no uncertain terms why
Instead,
things are the way they are.
they just do man on the street and listen to people.
And listen to Trumpers.
Right.
They do people who are unhappy. They never interview me, who says,
Yeah.
yeah, actually, I'm okay with gas being $4 a gallon or, or $2 more a gallon than it was. Because frankly,
Nice.
yeah, I know California and New York, their gas prices are insane. I understand that, but there's 48 other states
Yes.
and I live in one of them. And I'm okay with, and I'm still paying more than I was paying 6 months ago, but I'm okay with that. I am okay with that. I'm privileged and lucky to have not a job that requires me to drive all over the place.
Yes.
But I can also say that part of that is because Biden has made my life easier.
Yeah. And he
And
would
safer because he gives me tools to test for the pandemic. He gives me free masks. He gives me access to health care. He gives me the ability. These are all the reasons I'm willing to pay because I don't have to buy quite as much gas.
And if he had his way, you'd be saving more money.
I would be saving more money if the Republicans wouldn't have been right. Exactly. I would have, if I had little children, I'd have better access to childcare if the Republicans weren't keeping him from doing it.
Right.
So, but they don't interview people like me.
No.
Right. And to boot, because the child tax credit ended up going away after 6 months, right? So people are higher prices, and those kids that were lifted out of poverty are not being lifted out of poverty. And that's also Republicans' fault.
What we see are Republicans complaining that it's Joe Biden's policies that are causing this, and then there's no pushback.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're right. I mean, it's absolutely up to the news media to explain these things instead of just doing people are pissed off pieces about it like they do.
You guys, we have 3 minutes left.
Oh.
And I have to get back to working on my Seder.
Oh.
Other than the holiday, what have you guys got going this weekend?
I'm going to have a happy hour with my fellow clinic escorts. And
oh boy,
that should be fun.
It will be fun.
Especially this month.
You guys need it.
Yeah, especially after all these laws that are being passed.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything. We're doing the thing on Sunday with the family, which is great because, like I said, it's been probably 30 years since we've done Easter with my mom. So, yeah. So that'll be nice. Yeah. And looking forward to it.
Are you having family come in for your Seder, Donna?
It's a very small Seder, but you know what? It's still the same amount of work. So it's my daughter. It's my daughter, my niece, her boyfriend. We had another friend of my niece's, but she tested positive the other day, so she's not coming. We're getting her a little Seder basket. She's going to Zoom the Seder with us. Her family's in Australia. And she was looking forward to doing the Seder because Passover is her favorite holiday, and then she got COVID. So we've got that going on.
So she'll still have company with you.
She'll have company, but I can't wait to just relax in my nice, newly cleaned house with all of the leftovers,
Yeah.
Have some gefilte fish for me.
I don't do the gefilte fish. Ugh.
Oh, no? Okay. Have some matzo brie. Yeah. You do matzo brie?
I will do matzo brie, definitely. Okay. And
that's like French toast with matzah.
Yeah, it's good.
Karoli, just for your.
Sounds good.
If you haven't had it, it's yummy.
It is good. All right. On that note, we will see you guys next week at let's see. I got to look at my script. I haven't memorized this yet. Our new location is momocrats.buzzsprout.com. Our YouTube channel. Find us on your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And this is Donna Schwartz Mills saying goodbye for the MOMocrats. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
MOMocrats, MOMochat's part of the Demcast family of podcasts.